Uncover the shocking truth behind the devastating MH17 crash as we delve deep into the investigation to uncover what really happened to Malaysia Airlines Flight. Join us as we explore the evidence, testimonies, and conflicting claims to uncover the tragic events that led to the loss of 298 innocent lives. On July 17, 2014, just 4 months after Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 mysteriously vanished, another airliner operated by the same company vanished from radar screens in eastern Ukraine. Flight MH17 was en route between Amsterdam and Kuala Lumpur when contact with the aircraft was lost. The rest of the world would soon find out what had happened in this unbelievable, unthinkable crash. Today, we'll take a close look at the chain of events that led to the downing of Malaysia Airlines Flight 17. Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 took off from Amsterdam shortly after lunchtime on July 17, 2014. The flight had left with a slight delay due to overbooking and the crew's decision to wait for a few delayed passengers arriving from another flight. The pilot of MH17 was Captain Wan Amran Wan Hussein, a highly experienced pilot with over 18,000 flying hours under his belt. The 283 passengers and 15 crew members settled in for the long flight after takeoff. Everything was completely normal, and the day was nothing out of the ordinary for anyone except the aircraft. It flew for the first time after being manufactured exactly 17 years ago, on July 17, 1999. Now, 17 years later, the aircraft flew calmly along its path, first out of the Netherlands, then through Germany and Poland, and finally into Ukraine. At 3 p.m., the crew noticed thunderstorms ahead and asked to veer left of their assigned route. Their request was promptly granted. The Boeing 777 carefully navigated through the storms for 19 minutes and eventually exited the dangerous weather zone. The Ukrainian air traffic controller then instructed the flight to head directly towards a navigation aid on Russian territory, a typical procedure. The crew acknowledged the instruction at 15:19:56, unaware of the tragic fate that awaited them. In just 7 seconds, their lives would come to a sudden and unexpected end. At 15:20:03, the flight data and cockpit voice recorder ceased functioning after detecting a 20-millisecond sound spike. Simultaneously, MH17's transponder disappeared from Ukrainian and Russian radar controller screens, causing concern as the aircraft's radar signature suddenly fragmented. The controllers attempted radio communication, but received no response. Residents of East Ukrainian villages near above witnessed a nightmare as aircraft debris, luggage, and bodies fell into their homes, fields, and yards. A large fire erupted from the wreckage of the crashed airliner, leaving a debris field of about 50 square kilometers. First responders arrived on the scene, but it was evident that nobody had survived the broken plane's descent. Local farmers, miners, and armed rebels also assisted in the response. What had caused this tragedy? Global speculation arose as the plane flew over a conflict zone, prompting questions about whether it was shot down. Rebels and Russia denied this due to the plane's high altitude. However, Ukrainian intelligence later released intercepted phone calls, revealing concerning information. In a conversation between two individuals, known as the Greek and the Major, the truth about the MH17 crash was revealed. The Major disclosed that the plane had been shot down by the Cossacks at Chernobyl, specifically from the Chernobyl roadblock. He explained that the aircraft fell apart in the air near the Petropavlovskaya coal mine, with the first dead body found being that of a civilian. The Greek inquired about the details of the aircraft and any weapons found at the crash site, to which the Major explained that he had not been close to the main body of the debris yet. However, he did mention that there were remnants of inner brackets, chairs, and bodies where the first bodies had fallen. The Greek asked if there were any documents found, to which the Major responded that they had found documents belonging to an Indonesian student from Thompson University. He also noted that they found only civilian items such as medical supplies, towels, and toilet paper. The news of a plane crash quickly spread worldwide, and the cause appeared evident even before investigators arrived. Due to continued conflict, Foreign investigators could not access the crash site for over 4 months. As most victims were Dutch and Ukraine lacked resources, a Dutch-led investigative team was formed with members from various countries. Although some aircraft parts were disturbed or removed, most bodies had been retrieved and the crash sites remained mostly intact. The team collected many parts from 6 different crash areas around Hrabov and shipped them back to the Netherlands for investigation. The damaged aircraft showed signs of being hit by shrapnel, with numerous small holes in the cockpit area and pressure marks on the aluminum skin. Investigators reconstructed the forward section of the Boeing 777, resembling a large 3D puzzle, to determine the cause and nature of the attack. Investigators were able to determine that a missile had detonated outside the cockpit, showering it with cube and bow tie-shaped fragments that killed the flight crew instantly. To pinpoint the missile's location, the team analyzed data from 4 cockpit microphones that recorded a brief 20-millisecond pulse before ending. By calculating the time delay between the recordings, they found that the missile exploded above and to the left of the cockpit. The force of the explosion caused the cockpit to separate violently from the rest of the aircraft and fall to the ground, while the rest of the plane disintegrated and landed in different locations. Investigators struggled to determine if passengers remained conscious during the fatal descent due to intense G-forces and low oxygen levels. Personal devices revealed no attempts to document the situation, but many oxygen generators were activated. One passenger was found wearing an oxygen mask, suggesting that some may have been conscious in the initial stages of the aircraft's disintegration. The origin, motive, and perpetrator of the aircraft shooting remained unknown. Upon analyzing shrapnel fragments, analysts concluded that they came from a 9M38M1 missile, launched by Buk missile launchers used by both Ukrainian and Russian armed forces. The missile that hit MH17 was a 700-kilogram projectile, 5.55 meters in length, and armed with a 70-kilogram warhead that scattered bow tie and cube fragments. Capable of reaching altitudes up to 80,000 feet, it was confirmed to have originated from a territory controlled by Russian separatists using Russian equipment within Ukraine. The governments of Ukraine and Russia each denied responsibility for the incident, but investigations suggest the Buk missile system used was transported from Russia's 53rd Anti-Aircraft Missile Brigade, fired from a rebel-controlled area, and returned to Russia afterward. Trials against 4 Russian separatist leaders are ongoing, and the Netherlands and Australia have initiated legal proceedings in the International Civil Aviation Organization. Russia's unprovoked and unjustified invasion of Ukraine and the escalation of its aggression underscore the need to continue our enduring efforts to hold Russia to account for its blatant violation of international law and the UN Charter, including threats to Ukraine's sovereignty and airspace, stated former Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison. The tragic crash of Malaysian Airlines Flight 17 in July 2014 raised many questions about why the plane was flying over an area of armed conflict in the first place. This issue has yet to be resolved, even after several years of investigations and inquiries. One key question is why the airspace was not closed, particularly since Ukrainian planes had already been shot down in the same area a few days prior. While Ukraine had closed parts of its airspace up to 26,000 feet about a month before the MH17 tragedy, it had raised the restriction to 32,000 feet just 3 days before the crash. However, the doomed flight was flying at 33,000 feet, only slightly above this limit, and 159 other planes also flew in the same airspace that day. The fact that Ukraine knew about the dangers in the region, as 2 planes had already been shot down with weapons that could reach the altitude of commercial planes, makes the situation even more problematic. Under the international system of responsibilities, a sovereign state is responsible for the safety of its airspace. Some argue that Ukraine should have closed its airspace over the conflict zone but failed to do so. Moreover, no airline chose to avoid the area on its own initiative. Airlines usually rely on airspace restrictions provided by states when planning flight routes. The Dutch Safety Board called for both states and airlines to be more safety-minded in this regard. States should close their airspace more expeditiously if it is considered unsafe, and airlines should perform more frequent and thorough risk assessments to avoid potentially hazardous areas. In conclusion, the downing of Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17 was a tragic event that claimed the lives of 298 innocent people. Despite the efforts of investigators to uncover the truth, the exact sequence of events leading to the crash remains a subject of debate and controversy. While Russia denies any involvement in the incident, evidence from the Dutch Safety Board suggests otherwise. The investigation has revealed that the plane was brought down by a missile fired by pro-Russian separatists. It is our duty to remember the victims of this tragedy and to honor their memory. We must continue to seek the truth and hold those responsible accountable for their actions. Thank you for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more updates on this and other important stories.